What up, everyone? This is Mr. Lord, Dr. Professor, Dark Joker, with another edition of When, Where, Pick, and Dare, where I pick games for the various games that are occurring tomorrow, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, basically whatever games I want to pick, I will pick them. With all that being said, on with the video. MLB. So, first game is Arizona Diamondbacks versus the Chicago Cubs. So the Cubs have a 59.3% chance to win, while the Diamondbacks have a 40.7% chance to win. This is at Chicago, and for our pitchers, Brown for the Cubs has an ERA of 5.09 and a WHIP of 1.75, while Gallen for the Diamondbacks has an ERA of 4.64 and a WHIP of 1.41. So neither one has a great ERA right now. Now, some of that could be it being early in the season, but as far as ERA goes, that's not a good. Neither of those are good numbers. So I think home field advantage is going to play a big role, and I think the Cubs beat the Diamondbacks tomorrow. Then you have the Seattle Mariners versus the Toronto Blue Jays. So for this game, the Mariners have a 52.7% chance to win, and the Blue Jays have a 47.3% chance to win. This is at Toronto, and for our pitchers, Gilbert for the Mariners has a 2.38 ERA and a WHIP of .66, and Barrios for the Blue Jays has an ERA of 5.16 and a WHIP of 1.46. So, the Mariners have an obvious pitching advantage. So, despite this being at Toronto, I think the Mariners go in and beat the Blue Jays tomorrow. Next up, the Los Angeles Dodgers versus the Texas Rangers. So the Rangers have a 51.8% chance to win, while the Dodgers have a 48.2% chance to win. This is at Texas. For our pitchers, Sasaki for the Dodgers has an ERA of 3.29 and a WHIP of 1.76. And Eovaldi for the Rangers has an ERA of 2.55 and a WHIP of .73. So pitching, it's pretty close. Pitching, it's relatively evenly matched. So I think home field advantage will give the Rangers tomorrow over the Dodgers. And final MLB game will be the San Francisco Giants versus the Los Angeles Angels. So the Giants have a 56.6% chance to win, and the Angels have a 43.4% chance to win. And for our pitchers, Ralph for the Giants has an ERA of 4.8 and a WHIP of 1.6, and Hendricks for the Angels has an ERA of 4.2 and a WHIP of 1.2. So pitching's pretty even. Like the stats are pretty close. So pitching, it's going to be interesting. Neither ERA is great. So I think home field advantage will give the victory to the Angels tomorrow. NBA. So tomorrow it's starting the first round of playoffs. So first game will be the Indiana Pacers versus the Milwaukee Bucks. So game one. So this is at Indiana, and due to that fact, I think the Pacers will beat the Bucks tomorrow. All right, Denver Nuggets versus the Los Angeles Clippers, game one. This is at Denver, and so I think that with that being the case, I think despite the fact that the Nuggets are missing a coach, basically, I think the Nuggets beat the Clippers. So like this, for now, I don't think it will affect them too much. Now, if the series lasts a lot longer, it's like a long series, like goes like seven or something, then the lack of a coach could really hurt the Nuggets. And later rounds, it could really hurt them. But I think for right now, I think the Nuggets are going to be able to handle the Clippers tomorrow. And Detroit Pistons versus the New York Knicks. So this is at New York, so that'll be a big game. Like there could be a lot of people at that game probably. I mean, it's the Knicks, it's in New York, and I think that with it being at New York, I think the Knicks win game one tomorrow over the Pistons. Okay, Lakers versus Timberwolves. So this is at LA. So the Lakers, been doing better than this year than they have in a lot of recent years. Now in the playoffs, LeBron James doesn't have the same durability as he's had during the regular season because since later season, due to his age, wear and tear kicks in. That's happened with a lot of the older players, that are still playing. That as the season goes on, they don't last as long. Now, the Lakers do have Luka Doncic, which does help deal with that issue because he's, significantly younger than LeBron James. So, like, it does help alleviate that issue, like the age issue. And for now, especially with it being at LA, I don't think the age issue will play as big a role now, like with the Nuggets, in regards to their lack of a coach. And, the Lakers with JJ Redick basically being hired because of LeBron James. Right now, that won't play at that, along with LeBron's age, won't play as much of effect this early in the series for the Lakers. So, with it being at LA, I think the Lakers win game one tomorrow. College baseball. So, first up, Auburn versus Texas, game three. So, Texas has won the series. So, tomorrow will be game three. Basically, Texas is looking for a sweep, and Auburn's looking to salvage a win. A lot of times in game three, especially if the teams are very closely matched, the game, whoever lost the series, a lot of times wins the third game. Especially mainly if like the team that won the series won games one and two. So game three, where a lot of times your worst weekend pitchers pitch, not always, but most of the case, that's your worst weekend pitcher. I think Auburn salvages a win tomorrow while they can't win the series. Texas already clinched that. I think Auburn does beat Texas tomorrow. Louisville versus Clemson. So, same thing as with Auburn, Texas. Clemson already clinched the series, and Louisville searching to salvage a win. I think they're able to get a win tomorrow to make the series 2-1 instead of 3-0. And Ole Miss, yeah, that was an upset. So yeah, South Carolina won games 1 and 2 and clinched the series. This is at South Carolina, so home field advantage, I'm sure, did play a role there. Ole Miss being ranked 11th, obviously they're probably going to drop in the rankings after this weekend. I think they'll be able to salvage a win tomorrow, to where they'll avoid getting swept, because being swept would really look bad for them on their record. So Ole Miss gets the win tomorrow. All right, Georgia versus Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt won game one, and based on the score right now, it looks like there's a good chance Vanderbilt's winning game two to clinch the series. So, like with Auburn, Texas, and Louisville, Clemson, basically the losing school is looking to salvage a win to where it won't look as bad compared to if it was a sweep. So I think Georgia does get the victory tomorrow over Vanderbilt because the Whistler probably will not be as big a role since Vanderbilt's already clinched the series. Now he may still be there to piss people off, but I don't think it's going to be as big a role since Vanderbilt already clinched the series. So Georgia gets to win tomorrow over the Commodores. All right, North Carolina, Virginia Tech. So North Carolina has already won game one, and they'll be looking tomorrow to clinch the series over the Hokies. And I think that it's at Virginia Tech, so home field advantage maybe help the Hokies. I don't think as much as it feels like Virginia and not Virginia Tech, but this is North Carolina. So North Carolina, big baseball school. You know they're ranked. Virginia Tech's unranked. I think the Tar Heels, go to Virginia Tech and beat them tomorrow to clinch the series. All right. Miami versus Georgia Tech. So at the time recording this, Miami's up 4-1, bomb the eighth at the time recording this. So if they hang on to win, they'll give them one win to win game one. Miami, big baseball school, very rich history with, Miami, the city being one of the very big baseball like areas within the state of Florida. Like there's a lot of good baseball players that come out of Miami. Like Rafael Palmeiro being a notable one. Well, before steroids screwed him up. And so, they're playing Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, Tech's ranked, Miami's somehow unranked. Yeah, it's weird that with Miami's not ranked in baseball because it's Miami. That is like one of the premier baseball schools. Now, if Miami clinches a series, they could maybe have a chance. I don't know. But anyway, so game two is tomorrow. If they hang on to win tonight, they'll have a win to make to where if Miami wins tomorrow, the Hurricanes will clinch the series. I think based on home field advantage, which will be significant for the Hurricanes, at least it should for baseball. And Tech, Georgia Tech doesn't have a lot of fans, at least not in comparison to like UGA, like within the state of Georgia. So, home field advantage is going to be very big for Miami. I think the Hurricanes beat the Yellow Jackets tomorrow. All right. Oregon versus UCLA, game two. So that game has not started yet. Like game one hasn't. Game two is tomorrow at like around 5 p.m. I think Oregon wins the game tomorrow with it being at Oregon. Both teams are pretty closely ranked. You have UCLA at 10 and Oregon at 16. This could be a very good series. I think Oregon beats UCLA tomorrow. Let's see. Tennessee versus Kentucky. So this is game two, and Tennessee has already won game one. So tomorrow they'll be looking to clinch the series. This is at Knoxville, which has become in recent years one of the harder stadiums to play in. That game is at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. I think Tennessee beats Kentucky to clinch the series. All right. Alabama versus LSU. So LSU has already clinched the series as expected. It's at LSU, the hard stadium to play in. Like very difficult. I think, and so with that happening, Alabama wants to salvage a win so they don't fall as far in the rankings. Because they'll probably fall some with losing a series. When you lose 2 out of 3, you're gonna drop in the rankings. So, and LSU, they're gonna be fine. In the rankings, they're still probably gonna stay in the top 10. I think Alabama salvages a win tomorrow to prevent the sweep. All right, final game: Mississippi State versus Florida. So, at the time of recording this, um, Florida is up 13-3, bottom of the eighth in Starkville, Mississippi. So, assuming Florida wins today, aims on the win, they'll be up ahead, and then they'll be looking tomorrow to clinch the series. While Mississippi State will be looking to tie it up. I think the Bulldogs tie it up tomorrow to make it 1-1 to where on Sunday the the Gators and the Bulldogs will be competing over the who wins the series. So, yeah, Mississippi State beats the Gators tomorrow. And that's it for picks. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to my picks. Do you agree with them? Do you not? If you have different picks, you can put them in the comments. But other than that, please like, subscribe, and all that. Thank you for listening, and look forward to the next video.